Not like these kids today saying a few stupid things instead of saying, we got out-hustled, we got outshot, we got out-bumped, and we got outscored. It's easy. It's an easy game. You skate, you move the puck, you go to get it back. Defense go up together and they come back together. Don't get split or you're in trouble. Goaltenders stand up and 90% of them will hit you. It's an easy game. People made this game complicated when it never needed to be. I watched players over the years, young players, talented players, overthink everything. They'd come into the league with all this ability and spend half their energy worrying about systems, worrying about matchups, worrying about what the other team was going to do. The great ones never did that. The great ones just played. I've been around hockey my entire life. I grew up with it, I lived inside it, and I spent most of my career lining up against men who made the game look exactly as simple as it is, and exactly as beautiful as it can be when the right person is playing it. People have asked me for years who the greatest players I ever saw were. It's not a difficult question for me, not really, because there are 5 men who come back to me every time. 5 men I watched play this game at a level that reminded me why I fell in love with it in the first place. They didn't make it complicated, they made it look easy. And that, more than any statistic, more than any championship, is the hardest thing in hockey to do. Jean Beliveau. The first thing you noticed about Jean Beliveau wasn't his size, even though he was a big man for his era. It was his composure. I never saw Jean Beliveau panic on a hockey rink, not once. Not in the regular season, not in the playoffs, not in the moments when the building was shaking and everyone around him was feeling the weight of what was at stake. He'd take the puck behind his own net, calm. He'd walk into the offensive zone, calm. He'd set up a line mate or put one in the net, and then he'd skate back to the bench as if he'd done nothing more remarkable than tie his skates. That kind of composure cannot be taught. I tried to find it in myself throughout my career. There were nights I came close. There were nights I watched Jean Beliveau and understood exactly how far away I still was. What made him so difficult to play against wasn't his skill alone, though his skill was exceptional. It was the feeling he created in your own head. When Jean had the puck, you knew you needed to close him down immediately. But there was something in the way he carried himself that made you hesitate for just a fraction of a second longer than you should have. That fraction of a second was all he needed. I've played against Hall of Famers. I've lined up against men who could score, men who could hit, men who could change a game in a single shift. But Jean Beliveau was something different. He was the kind of player who made every single man around him, teammate or opponent, feel that the game was being played the way it was supposed to be played. That's a rare thing, and I've never seen it done with more dignity than the way Jean Beliveau did it. Gordie Howe. I wore number 9 as a tribute to Gordie Howe. That tells you everything you need to know about what he meant to me. When I was coming up in this game, Gordie wasn't just a player you admired, he was a standard. He was the thing you measured everything else against. You didn't ask if a player was good, you asked how close he came to Gordie. Most of them didn't come very close. What people forget about Gordie, what the highlights and the statistics don't fully capture, is how complete he was. And I don't mean complete in the way we use that word now, where a complete player is someone who plays both ends of the ice. I mean complete in the deepest sense. He could do everything. He could score goals that didn't look possible from where he was standing. He could set up plays with a precision that belonged to a different kind of player entirely. He could protect the puck from men who outweighed him, and he could separate men from the puck when he decided it was time. He played with a physicality that wasn't aggression for its own sake. It was controlled, purposeful, and utterly relentless. I watched him play into his 40s. Most players are declining by their mid-30s. Gordie was still among the best players in the game at an age when most men have long since hung up their skates. That doesn't happen by accident. That happens because a player loves the game so deeply that the game gives something back. He wore number 9 for the same reason I eventually wore it. Before him, someone else he admired wore it. That's how greatness moves through a sport. It passes from one generation to the next, and the players lucky enough to touch it carry it forward. I was lucky enough to touch it. I knew it then, and I know it now. Bobby Orr. I'll tell you exactly what Bobby Orr did to hockey. He broke it. Not in a bad way, in the way that certain players come along and make everything that existed before them look incomplete. He looked at the way defensemen were supposed to play, stay back, protect the zone, move the puck to the forwards, and let them do the creative work, and he simply ignored it. Not because he was reckless, because he understood something about the game that almost nobody else had figured out yet. The defenseman with the puck isn't a liability, he's an opportunity. I remember watching Bobby Orr carry the puck through the neutral zone and thinking, nobody knows where this is going. Not the forwards in front of him, not the defenseman trying to stop him, not the goaltender. Bobby was making decisions at full speed that most players couldn't have made standing still. What he did to opposing teams was create a problem with no good answer. If you sent a forward back to meet him, you gave him space to pass. If you gave him space, he was already at your blue line and accelerating. If you tried to hit him, he was already somewhere else. I played in an era of great players. I played against men who could skate, men who could shoot, men who changed games with one shift. But Bobby Orr changed the entire conversation about what a defenseman was supposed to be. Every defenseman who has carried the puck since Bobby Orr has done it in his shadow. The ones who do it best know it. The ones who do it badly know it too. He set the standard. Nobody has surpassed it. I'm not sure anyone ever will. Wayne Gretzky. People always ask me what it was like to watch Wayne Gretzky play. They expect me to talk about the goals, the assists, the records that don't look real no matter how many times you read them. What I tell them is this: Wayne Gretzky made every player on the ice better. Not just his line mates, not just his teammates. Every player on the ice, including the ones trying to stop him, played a better version of hockey when Wayne Gretzky was on the rink. He elevated the game around him by the sheer force of what he could see. I've been around hockey my whole life. I've watched players with extraordinary vision. Men who could see a pass 2 seconds before it was available. Men who seemed to understand where every player on the ice was going before the players themselves had decided. Wayne had all of that, and then he had something beyond it. He had a gift for making the right decision at the exact right moment that was so consistent, so reliable, so complete, that it began to look like he simply couldn't make a wrong one. You'd watch a play develop and think, there's no good option here, and then Wayne would find one that wasn't on the ice yet. He'd create it by being in a position nobody else had thought to occupy. As a forward, my whole career was built on reading ice, finding space, and putting the puck where it needed to go. I was good at it. On my best nights, I was very good at it. Watching Wayne Gretzky made me realize that what I was doing and what he was doing were similar in the way that walking and flying are similar. Same general direction. Completely different thing. Maurice Richard. I've saved this one for last because it's the one that's hardest to put into words. Maurice Richard didn't just play hockey, he burned. I was young when I first saw him play, young enough that I was still figuring out what kind of player I wanted to become. And I remember watching the Rocket and feeling something that I hadn't felt watching anyone else. Not admiration, fear. Not fear of him exactly. Fear of what it meant that a man could want something that badly. Fear of whether I would ever want anything with the same intensity. Fear that the game I loved had a level to it I hadn't seen yet and wasn't sure I could reach. Rocket Richard played every shift, as if the outcome of the entire season depended on it. Not most shifts, every shift. The first shift of a regular season game in October, the last shift of a Stanley Cup final in April. The same fire, the same eyes, the same absolute refusal to accept that the result was anything other than what he was going to make it.
I've been asked many times what separates the great players from the legends. My answer has always been the same. The great players want to win.
The legends cannot accept losing. Maurice Richard could not accept losing. Not a shift, not a game, not a season. It lived inside him every moment he was on the ice, and it spread to everyone around him like heat from a fire. He was the most inspiring player I ever watched. Not because of what he could do with a hockey stick, because of what he carried inside him every time he stepped on the ice. That fire, that absolute refusal, is the rarest thing in this game. Rocket Richard had more of it than any player I ever saw, and I've been chasing it my whole life. I said at the beginning that this is an easy game, and it is. Skate, move the puck, go and get it back, don't get split, stand up. But the 5 men I've talked about today, Jean Beliveau, Gordie Howe, Bobby Orr, Wayne Gretzky, and Maurice Richard, they didn't just play the easy game. They played a version of the easy game that nobody else could touch. Beliveau played it with composure that made every moment look like it had already been decided in his favor. Gordie played it with a completeness that made you wonder if there was anything he couldn't do. Bobby Orr played it with a freedom that changed what the game was allowed to be. Gretzky played it with a mind that saw things the rest of us simply couldn't see. And Rocket Richard played it with a fire that reminded everyone watching, teammate, opponent, fan, or coach, why this game matters in the first place. I wore number 9 because of Gordie Howe. I hope somewhere along the way I did something that made it worth wearing. These 5 men made me understand what worth wearing really means.